Hansen is arguably the world's leading researcher on global warming. He's the head of NASA's top institute studying the climate. This eminent scientist says the Bush administration is restricting who he can talk to and editing what he can say. Politicians, he says, are rewriting the science.
The administration is censoring what you can say.
Well, they're censoring whether or not I can say it, I believe, if I'm allowed to say it.
What James Hansen believes is that global warming is accelerating. He points to the melting Arctic and to Antarctica, where new data show massive losses of ice to the sea.
Is it fair to say at this point that humans control the climate? Is that possible?
There's no doubt about that. The natural changes, the speed of the natural changes is now dwarfed by the changes that humans are making to the atmosphere and to the surface.
Hansen says that his research shows man has just 10 years to begin to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, or global warming will reach what he calls a tipping point and will become unstoppable. He says the White House is blocking that message.
In my more than 3 decades in the government, I've never witnessed such restrictions on the ability of scientists to communicate with the public.
Restrictions like this email, which Hansen's Institute received from NASA. There is a new review process. The White House is now reviewing all climate-related press releases. Why the scrutiny of Hansen's work? Well, his Goddard Institute of Space Studies is the source of respected but sobering research on warming. It announced 2005 was the warmest year on record. Hansen started at NASA more than 30 years ago and spent nearly all of that time studying the Earth. How important is his work? We asked someone at the top, Ralph Cicerone, president of the nation's leading institute of science, the National Academy of Sciences.
I can't think of anybody who I would say is better than Hansen. You might argue that there's 2 or 3 others as good, but nobody better.
And Cicerone, who's an atmospheric chemist, said
carbon dioxide and methane and chlorofluorocarbons and a couple of others, which are all the increases in their concentrations in the air are due to human activities. It's that simple.
But if it is that simple, why do climate science reports look like this after they've been edited at the White House, with science labeled not sufficiently reliable? It's a tone of scientific uncertainty that the president set in his first months in office after he pulled out of a global treaty to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
We do not know how much our climate could or will change in the future. We do not know how fast change will occur, or even how some of our actions could impact it.
That ambiguity annoyed Hansen, so he went public nearly 2 years ago saying this about the Bush administration in a talk at the University of Iowa.
I find a willingness to listen only to those portions of scientific results that fit predetermined, inflexible positions. This, I believe, is a recipe for environmental disasters.
Ever since he said that, NASA's been keeping an eye on Hansen. Other interviews have been denied.
And I object to the fact that I'm not able to freely communicate via the media. National Public Radio wanted to interview me, and they were told that they would need to instead interview someone at NASA headquarters. And I think that we should be able to communicate the science.
Dozens of federal agencies report science, and much of it is edited at the White House before it's sent to Congress and the public. It appears that climate science is edited with a heavy hand. These drafts of climate reports were co-written by Rick Piltz for the Federal Climate Change Science Program. But Piltz says his work was edited by the White House to make global warming seem less threatening.
The strategy of people with a political agenda to avoid this issue is to say, there's so much to study way upstream here that we can't even begin to discuss impacts and response strategies. There's much too much uncertainty. And it's not climate scientists who are saying that. It's lawyers. It's politicians.
You're responsible for editing Our Changing Planet, and you send a review draft to the White House. What happens?
It comes back with a large number of edits, handwritten on the hard copy by the Chief of Staff of the Council on Environmental Quality.
And the chief of staff is whom?
Phil Cooney.
He is a scientist?
No, he's a lawyer. It was a lobbyist for the American Petroleum Institute before going into the White House.
Phil Cooney, the former oil industry lobbyist, became chief of staff at the White House Council on Environmental Quality. Pilt says Cooney edited climate reports in his own hand. Here, a line that said Earth is undergoing rapid change becomes maybe undergoing change. Uncertainty becomes significant remaining uncertainty. This line that says energy production contributes to warming is just crossed out.
He was obviously passing it through a political screen. He would put in the word potential or may or weaken or delete text that had to do with the likely consequences of climate change.
Here, Pilt says that Cooney added this line: the uncertainties remain so great as to preclude meaningfully informed decision-making. References to human health are marked out. So he resigned.
I mean, even to raise issues internally is immediately career limiting. That's why you will find not too many people in the federal agencies who will speak freely about all the things they know.
But it's not a situation you'll find in this federal report. Government scientists wanted to tell you about the ice sheets, but before this draft left the White House, the paragraph on glacial melt and flooding was crossed out, and this was added, straying from research strategy into speculative findings and musings here. Hansen says that kind of editing happened to him once during a presentation when a top official scolded him for using the word danger.
I think we know a lot more about the tipping points. I think we know about the dangers of even a moderate degree of additional global warming, about the potential effects in the Arctic, about the potential effects on the ice sheets.
You just used that word again that you're not supposed to use. Danger.
Yeah, it is a danger.